everybody. My name is Lotus and you are now watching LOTUSLIKE. This podcast is here to help us all navigate our experience of starting over. That's why this entire season is dedicated to the different ways and different aspects of life in which we can start over. Episode 1 was all about what it means to start over, what it can look and feel like emotionally, and how the brain gets on board and even handles radical change. So if that's something that you're into, please go check out episode 1 because it's exactly what you need on your journey of starting over. And episode 2 is all about creating that narrative when it comes to your new story in life. And that comes through personal rebranding. So I'm going to share what the concept is, how it works, why you definitely need a personal rebrand when you're starting over, and how the brain responds to a personal rebrand. So go ahead, grab something to drink or put me on the TV while you start cleaning up, getting organized, and let's dive in. First and foremost, what is a personal rebrand? A personal rebrand is all about redefining who you are. You've already decided you're starting anew, right? You knew that something needed to change. You knew the things you were doing in the past, the way you were living before is no longer serving who you want to become. So now you got to switch things up. And that means that you can't take the same habits and patterns and beliefs that you had in the old life to the new life. Some of them can transcend our core beliefs, right? Things that are inherently who we are, no matter where we are at in our journey. But the more surface level nuanced things can definitely be shifted around because you don't need them where you're going. And honestly, they may hold you back from getting to where you want to go, making your entire decision to start over obsolete. A personal rebrand involves shifting your identity, your values and goals to align with who you are becoming, who you are envisioning in your mind's eye. I like to think of it as refreshing your inner self to match your external world. Why does it even matter? Like, okay, this is cute, but why do I even need this concept on my journey? I'm going to give you 3 big reasons why you need a personal rebrand. Because when I started researching about this topic, I realized why a lot of times when I would start over in the beginning did not work. And it was because I was missing this crucial concept of a personal rebrand. As we continue to move through life, we are going to grow and unfold into a different version of ourselves. And that means that we're going to have to become adaptable. You can't be adaptable if you do not know what it is that you're doing, where you're going, what your goals are, and more importantly, who you are in the moment. Sometimes we put this pressure on ourselves to be who we were in the past because we feel like it may have been a better version of ourselves, right? Or we feel that what we were in the past wasn't good enough, so now we have to be the extreme opposite. All of that can just add unnecessary pressure to your experience and make it extremely hard for you to grow naturally, to unfold as you are designed to. And you need that adaptability to make that happen. Having a personal rebrand gives you adaptability, gives you space and structure to grow the way that you were meant to. A personal rebrand allows you to embrace that change that comes with growing and being adaptable, and allows you to continue evolving in ways that align with your true self. Next up is clarity and purpose. You need to have clarity in order to even begin your new journey. If you are confused on who it is you want to become, how you want to feel to other people, how you want to feel to yourself, if you don't have a purpose to your starting over, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up back where you started and you're going to be extremely frustrated about it. Having a personal rebrand gives you clarity and purpose. It helps you to make sure that you are going on a path that makes sense to you. It helps you to create meaningful goals. And ultimately, having those 2 things continues to allow you to align to your highest self. Now, my third big why is empowerment. I know it's a super triggering word. I know a lot of us hates hearing that word. Shout out the empowerment brunches that traumatize a lot of people. I'm just being honest. But empowerment is still a very crucial and important part of your wellness journey, of your spiritual journey, of just your journey here on earth. And having a personal rebrand gives you the opportunity to focus in on yourself, on what you need, on what you deeply desire, and empowers you to make the choices that align to that vision of yourself. that you have within. Those decisions then reflect your true desires. And ultimately, you begin to feel empowered of like, wow, when I make decisions that are in alignment with my highest self, my life feels better. My brain feels better. My body feels better. My spirit feels better. And that's going to be that momentum, even that motivation or inspiration to keep you moving forward in this journey of starting over. Now, for me, when I started with my personal rebrand, I realized how crucial it was for me because before the personal rebrand, I was feeling really lost in it. I knew, okay, I made a decision to start over, got it, cool. But then it was just like, I don't really know what to do with I don't know what to do with the starting over aspect. I don't know what I am supposed to be, how I'm supposed to express myself. It became a more frustrating experience because I knew I needed to go somewhere. I just didn't know where I was going. Started plugging into the personal rebrand concept, and all of a sudden things became very clear about where it is that I was going. And I was just like, I need this. First and foremost, having a personal rebrand really helped me with navigating the transition that comes with leading and going into a new life. Because when you're starting over, whether it's a new job, you're moving to a new city, you're in a new relationship, or you just want a new sense of style, right? A personal rebrand will help you navigate that transition smoothly. You'll have points to hit simply because it offers that sense of direction and helps you to align with the new circumstances and also consequences that come from starting over in life. And that's something that I don't think a lot of us really lean into. Like, there are going to be new environments you have to navigate, new people you'll be attracting. There's going to be new circumstances and consequences to your actions. You taking better care of yourself might mean that someone that you love feels like you're neglecting them. Or you might find that I'm working out more, building up more energy. And now I find myself wanting to go to a better gym or, being more active in like the run clubs or the walking clubs that are out there in the world now. That's a new circumstance that wasn't present before because you weren't on that path. Having a personal rebrand is something you can go back to and be like, okay, cool. This is the path that I'm on. This still feels good for me. Let me continue moving forward. With that being said, I also realized that all of my old goals were semi irrelevant to the new life that I'm living, the new person that I was becoming. So I had to set new goals. Personal rebrand, chef's kiss when it comes to setting new goals, setting new intentions that are, again, in alignment with who it is that you are unfolding to be, that push the evolution of who I'm becoming, that resonate with my aspirations. And it truly does make the journey more meaningful. Another thing that a personal rebrand can do for you and did for me personally is build resilience. I like to think that I'm a pretty resilient girl. I have struggled with that relationship with that word because, again, I am very much against that strong Black woman narrative. Do not call me strong. Don't do that. But as I've gotten older, you experience one extreme to the next. I went from being really proud of being independent and strong to being like, don't ever in your life associate me with those words, to finding a sweet spot. And the personal rebrand really helped me to do that because the process of creating a personal rebrand helps you strengthen your ability to adapt and face new challenges. By default, you become more resilient. You're going to need that resiliency as you move forward in your new life. Because when you are starting over, truly starting over, a lot of what you're doing is going to feel very foreign to you. It's going to feel very unknown. And the brain does not like the unknown. That's where fear comes into play. And it's just kind of like, again, that worried friend that's like, girl, don't go there. We don't like that. This top is not flattering. We don't know if we're qualified for that job. All those worries start to set in when you enter the unknown. This is why you need a personal rebrand because it's going to continue to center you on the path and remind you that you actually have a game plan, a blueprint to this new life. And even if things shift as you're applying it to the real world, ultimately you have something to look back at and make sure that you're on the path that you want to be. Or you can look back at it and say, you know what, I need to adjust this game plan a little bit because I'm realizing that I actually want to shift more this way. That's so much more easier than you going into the unknown without any plans and then allowing the default mode network in our minds, right, the DMN, to come on and remind you of all of your fears, worries, and failures and bring you back to what is comfortable, which is where you were trying to leave initially, right? Main reason why we're starting over. So just having the ability to be more resilient, to continue being adaptable, to be able to navigate these transitions. I feel like if that hasn't sold you on personal rebrand, I'm not sure what will. I'm going to keep sharing my story because I'm hoping that by the time we're done with this episode in particular, you are ready to properly game plan for your life. Now, of course, I wouldn't be the practitioner that I am if I didn't share what happens on a spiritual wellness level when we have a personal rebrand. On a spiritual level, a personal rebrand feels like a profound awakening. All of a sudden, you're receiving new insights, a refreshed sense of purpose, and a deeper connection to your spiritual path because you're realizing that all of what you were connected to before, the things that made you feel small or made you feel insignificant or made you feel incapable, that they were not true to the divine version of yourself that is always accessible within us. We always have access to the divine, be it through our inner selves or connecting to our ancestors or connecting to the God we call on to in our time of need. You have the ability to plug into that energy and really see yourself in a beautiful way. When we choose to start over, it is the beginning of a spiritual awakening. But I do feel like there's a disconnect there when there's no game plan. Because once you get hit with those insights, the next question is like, well, what do I do with all this information? And if you do not have a game plan, again, you're going to go back to what is familiar and what you know, which is what you are trying to escape, to be quite honest. When we start to get those divine downloads, those spiritual nudges on, hey, why don't you go to this coffee shop today? Or, why don't you book that trip to go to that country? And you're just kind of like, why? Like, tell me more. I don't understand why you would suggest this. You end up questioning it so much that you talk yourself out of the spiritual nudge. The truth is, we are consistently being spoken to by source all of the time, but we will use logic to misalign us every single time. If it's not making sense to the logical side of our brain, we immediately dismiss it as like a random thought. When in fact, a lot of those random thoughts be source, be God. Talking to you, saying, okay, you chose to step into a new version of yourself, to live a new life in this one lifetime that we have on earth. You're choosing to discover more about who you are and connect deeper to me. Let me drop some gems. Let me open the pathway for you. And if you are not open to it, if you do not realize that, because the personal rebrand can also remind you to lean into the spiritual nudges some more. I know for my personal rebrand, I have a section of that personal rebrand. Mine is tangible, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I have a section of it that literally reminds me, you are a divine being first, babe. First and foremost, listen to the nudges. Let the nudges guide you. Allow the nudges to help you build up your faith and your connection to source, because you ultimately want to live a life of wonder, of magic, of awe. And that really can only happen when you are in alignment with God. I need that reminder literally every single day. And you would think that I wouldn't because of what I teach and the lifestyle that I live. But living in this world, you're constantly taking in information. You're constantly being conditioned. As my uncle used to always remind me, you're constantly being brainwashed. It's truly up to you to decide what you're being brainwashed with. I know that that might sound super like conspiracy theory energy, but it's true. Every time you turn on your phone, every time you read a book, every time you enter a conversation, there's an opportunity for you to be influenced, for you to shift your entire perspective on something. Some of us are more stubborn than others. Some of us are super impressionable. And both ends can be really unhealthy, right? Because if you're a little too stubborn, especially when it comes to your spiritual journey of starting over, you're going to be set in ways that you've been trying to get rid of. However, if you're too impressionable, you're just going to take everything in and do all these things and nothing's going to stick or feel right. And you're going to lose an identity of self. So you need to find that sweet spot. That sweet spot really comes with having the personal rebrand. It just keeps me on track. Every time that I feel like I am leaning one way or the other, maybe I find myself in my little fixed Scorpio ways, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I can go back to the rebrand and be like, well, if I were to try that out, it would lead me to an aspect of my personal rebrand that I wrote out, that, I put together, that I do want to experience. So why was I immediately saying no to that? then it makes me question myself, cultivating that self-awareness so that I can move forward paying more attention. Or if I find that I'm taking in too many suggestions, I can go back to the rebrand and be like, okay, all these suggestions sound dope. However, none of them are going to lead me to where it is that I want to go. So now I can lovingly put them things down, put those beliefs, perspectives, paradigms down, and recenter and refocus on what it is I actually want to experience in this life. Doing this is going to make us more aware of wellness integration. And that really just means how can wellness support us as we are cultivating our personal rebrand. And first and foremost, you're going to notice a lot of emotional shifts. I touched on this in the first episode as well. It can be anything from excitement, uncertainty, to even resistance. Again, because when we're asking to shift our identity to something that we envision for ourselves, that inner world vision, there's going to be so much opposition at first because everything in your present moment is opposite of where it is that you want to be or where it is that you feel you should be. That's going to bring up a lot of emotions. I would always suggest using EFT to help you navigate through that so that you can begin to get comfortable in the unknown. Remember that these feelings are natural and a part of the rebranding process. It's not about shushing them or pretending that they don't exist, right? We acknowledge our emotions because they're information for us so that we know what we're doing and where we're going. We simply let them come up and realize, okay, I'm really excited about this. This feels really good, right? Or you know what if I cannot do this? I'll give you an example. I've always had a very dark energy about me. And you guys know I talk about this all the time. I'm on a mission to decolonize the word dark, especially dark femininity, because what people say it is, it's not. Like they associate it with toxicity, and darkness and toxicity are two separate things. I was on TikTok, my research engine at the moment, and I'm looking up cottagecore, and then I see like dark cottagecore. And then I see dark cottagecore for Black women. And I just was like, oh, this is me. I want to dress like this all the time. And at first I was thinking I was going more gothic chic because I've always loved like gothic emo vibes since I was younger. Again, I grew up with a Leo mom, so we bumped heads a lot on my style vision. But luckily, because I grew up in New York City, Black was always in, so I was able to get away with it. However, I always envisioned myself to be along the lines of like Wednesday from the Addams Family meets Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. I know conceptually it's like, girl, what are you talking about? But like, if you've seen the way I dress, I feel like you've seen the vision. Anyway, I say that to say, when I was going through the inspiration, right, scrolling through the videos and seeing how these beautiful Black women were like showing up in their Gothic era and, you know, in their Gothic expression, some of it was like really intense. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I could do that. Journal say, like, I'm not sure about that part. And then I got to sit with myself and see, like, well, why do I feel that way? And the truth is because it would be a little alarming to the environment and the people around me. Not necessarily for me. I actually would love to wear some of those pieces. It would make me feel so powerful and magical and mystical. But it's so interesting that though I would feel really good about wearing it personally, I was more concerned about how my environment and my people around me would receive it. You see what I mean? So that's why you want to pay attention to your emotions and use them to get information to help you in your integration process because your well-being is going to be woven into your personal rebrand to help you navigate those feelings. The next thing I want to highlight is energetic realignment or recalibration, if you will. This is where you realize that the energy that you carry is split in a way because there's a part of that energy that is attached to and calling on that new version of yourself. And then there's a part of your energy that might be more conscious. I would even say that the part of your energy that's connected to your new version may be subconscious, lying underneath the surface. And you have that surface energy that's more apparent, that's attached to your old life. So you're kind of having this dual of energy experience, and you're like, I don't know which way to go. Most times, the subconscious mind does tend to override, if you will, because it makes up the majority of how we perceive life. But every now and then, the conscious mind can throw some hits and have you right back to where it is that you started. So you want to make sure that you are aligning your energy to where it is that you want to go. This is so important. I will forever talk about the power and the importance of cultivating your energy, making sure that your inner world is beautiful, that it is strong and inviting, and that your aura is beautiful, that it's big and it's inviting. Because as you begin to navigate a new world where a lot of uncertainty comes up for you, having a strong aura can do so much for you on your journey of starting over. And when you align to that new version of yourself energetically, it's going to bring new people in your life that strengthen that attachment, new practices, new environments, and all of these things are going to support your growth and help you stay grounded and centered to your inner self and your inner world as it begins to express itself in the physical. All right, to really drive home the purpose of a personal rebrand, I wanted to talk about nature. I'm always fascinated by nature simply because everything happens as it needs to in nature. Nothing is being rushed. There's no comparison. The sunflower is not looking at the rose like, oh, she's prettier than me. None of that shit is happening in nature. And it's something that we can all really look to for inspiration because nature is constantly rebranding itself. And we're going to talk about what that looks like by looking into the 4 seasons. Now, I know global warming has maybe shifted a few seasons. It's feeling like in certain places we got 12 and other ones we only got 2, but we're going to talk about the traditional 4, okay? That's winter, spring, summer, and fall. All right. Just like nature, personal rebranding has natural cycles of change in your life. And when you honor that and have awareness of them, you get to use them to help you in your journey. Let's start off with winter. Winter is all about rest and renewal. Essentially, everything on the outside in nature looks like it's dead, right? But when you really pay attention, you know that underneath the surface in the earth, the roots are getting fortified. They're strengthening, they're growing, they're connecting to other plants and trees and nature. That is still happening during winter. Look back at where you've come from, that old life you're leaving behind, and see what parts you want to keep with you, what parts are going to help you in this evolution of self, and what parts are going to stay where they was at. You need time to slow down and reflect and pay attention, to have moments of solitude, to really build out your personal rebrand. This is not about socializing and getting other people's opinions, because this is about you and what you desire. That winter season does the same thing in nature. Again, nature's not talking to anyone else. It's just like at this moment, everything is shut down. Everything is on silent. I need to make sure that my inner world, my roots are strong and healthy because I know I'm about to blossom. Then we have spring. Spring is all about the new beginnings. So in nature, we begin to bud. It starts to defrost, gets a little bit warmer. This is the perfect opportunity in nature to plant new seeds. And you can also refer that to the personal rebrand because it's the perfect time in your personal rebrand to plant seeds or new goals that you want to achieve or experience, and setting those intentions that are going to allow you to fully live in this new life you're cultivating. Then we have summertime, the summertime. I'm a big Will Smith fan. Just deal with it. We have summertime, and that's all about growth and expansion. In nature, that's really where you begin to see the plants socialize, cross pollinate, share things. Everything's blooming beautifully. The days are longer, so you get to be outside more. There's more sunlight for you to feel. This directly correlates to the personal rebrand journey because you realize, like, okay, I've sat with myself in solitude. I see what I wanted to become. I started planting those seeds, working on them slowly but surely. And now I'm ready to show other people and share with other people, like, who it is that I've been becoming in these past 2 seasons of self. So you're now starting to see that evolution, right? You see how they correlate? I love that nature is parallel to our well-being. Creme de la creme. So summer for the personal rebrand helps us to, first and foremost, want to be seen as our new version of self, but it also reminds us to continue nurturing and expanding in that new identity. This will allow us to embrace opportunities that fortify what we've already clarified in our personal rebrand, ultimately allowing us to flourish in our new sense of self. Then we have my favorite season, which is fall. Not just because I was born in fall, but fall is wonderful because it is not only about harvesting all of your hard work that you've done, whether it be in nature or in your personal rebrand, it's also an opportunity for us to make space. Fall is where the leaves start changing. It's so much more vibrant and beautiful in nature as well. You start to notice a shift in the weather. This is where you get to get the fruits and the vegetables and all the beautiful seeds that you planted in spring and that were blossoming and blooming in summer are officially ready to be experienced by you in fall. The same thing goes for the personal rebrand. When you get to that space of harvest in your personal rebrand, it feels so good because now you are reaping the benefits of the reflection period, the solitude period. You're reaping the benefits of the planting the new seeds and new intentions and new goals. You're reaping the benefits of socializing and sharing this new version of yourself with others. And now it's ultimately a time in fall to integrate, to really let this new self be woven into every cell of your being, to resonate deeply in your bones. And while you're doing this, you may also notice that, wow, what worked for me in these other 3 seasons, I do want to let go of some things. I'm not sure if I want to keep that. And you start the cycle all over again. So the personal rebrand is never ending. It's evolving alongside you every step of the way. And you want your personal rebrand to do that because who you wanted to be in winter, after experiencing spring and summer, you might get to fall and be like, I wasn't thinking big enough, right? Like that was just the surface for me. And now, because I've put in this amount of effort and intentionality, I desire something more aligned, something deeper, something bigger. Personal rebranding is a powerful tool of self-discovery ultimately. When you align yourself with your personal rebrand, it makes your journey so much more smoother because you're navigating these transitions with clarity. You're aligning to your truest self and you're building resilience that will allow you to endure the unfolding of the path ahead. Having a personal rebrand helps you to have trust in the process of starting over and to honor each phase of the journey and of yourself that you will experience, knowing that every step you take brings you to your desired self, your dream self. I love sharing all the information with you. I want you to let me know in the comments below, what season do you think you're in when it comes to starting over? In your personal rebrand story, are you a winter, a spring, a summer, or fall? I want to know below in the comments. Remember to like this episode, rate this podcast, subscribe, and share with a friend. And we're about to have our tea break. But before we do, let's get into some deep breaths to recenter. Let's take a moment to pause so we can integrate all that information we just received before we jump into the second part of this podcast, which is all about how the brain understands a personal rebrand. I want you to close your eyes if that feels good or soften your gaze. Maybe bring your hand to your heart. I always suggest bringing your left hand to your heart because the left side of our body is all about the receiving energy, right? And we're receiving our love and our wisdom. And you can always bring your right hand on top or place your right hand over your womb or your lower belly and just begin to notice how your body feels. We're not judging ourselves in this moment. We're just noticing how our breath is working for us, within us. Are we taking deep inhales or are we taking shallow breaths? Do we feel tension in the body or do we feel more relaxed? Wherever you're at, that's where you are, and it's beautiful in its own right. I want you to invite a nice deep inhale into the lower belly, expand the belly as much as possible, breathing into the heart space. And open mouth exhale, release. And as you release, you're softening your shoulders, softening the face, inviting in another deep inhale, breathing into the lower belly, expanding into the heart. Open mouth exhale, release, softening any tension behind the eyes, unclenching the jaw, dropping your tongue from the roof of your mouth. We take another deep inhale, breathing in, and an audible exhale, release. And then when you feel ready, you can open your eyes, readjust your gaze, come back to the present moment with me. And here's what we're going to do. We're taking our tea break. And I want to give you a sneak peek of what we'll be talking about in the second part of this episode. We're going to be talking about understanding the role that the brain plays in the personal rebrand, what self-perception is, emotional responses and cognitive dissonance, the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, and ultimately how they all come together to help us really enjoy our personal rebrand. So I will see you in a little bit. Enjoy your tea break. How was your tea break? I hope it was good. All right, let's get into this section about how the brain witnesses your personal rebrand. I want us to understand the brain's role in the personal rebrand because it's super important. I cannot tell you how often I hear from my students to my VIP clients to my community on how hard it is for them to stick to the experience and see it all the way through to completion of starting over. We always hit some type of roadblock or an upper limit, and we don't understand why and what we can do to shift that experience for us. A lot of it has to do with how our brain is wired and how it is processing this experience of starting over. And again, we are going to talk about why the personal rebrand can become maybe even the best friend to the brain on this journey of starting over. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the role of self-perception. What even is self-perception? Self-perception is how you view and understand yourself. As you begin to redefine yourself, your brain begins to realign itself to this new identity you're cultivating. So for instance, let's say you're rebranding yourself to be a more adventurous person. You might find yourself more open to new experiences and risks. This shift helps to solidify that new identity that you're cultivating, making it feel more natural over time. So for me, I never really thought of myself as an adventurous person until one day during a personal rebrand. I was like, you know what? I would like to be more adventurous. I don't think I've ever thought much into the idea of being adventurous, but like, I want to see what that would be like. Next thing you know it, I'm in the Grand Canyon and I am pleasantly surprised that I am literally at the edge, sitting down, swinging my feet, having fun. People who knew me were just like, I didn't know you were like this. And I'm like, I think I am an adventurous girly, right? And then it started to evolve where now if you know me personally, I love me a good roller coaster. I'm down to go jet skiing, to jump out of a plane, bungee jumping, zip lining. These different experiences have helped me integrate that perspective or personality trait of being adventurous in my personal rebrand because my perception of self shifted in the mind. Now, how can you support your self perception? Engage in practices that are going to affirm your new self image, such as positive affirmations, setting achievable goals, and surrounding yourself with people who uplift you and support you. And what I really love is that in my Lotus Life deck that I personally use for rebranding, and we're going to talk a bit more about that towards the end, there are pages for you to put in positive affirmations, images, and videos that you can use to help you reaffirm your new self image. There are meditations and EFT sessions that are in there to help you with any aspect of your life so that you feel that support, especially if you consider yourself to be a black sheep. Maybe the people in your current reality are not going to come with you to the next one. You can use the community that's around the Lotus Life deck as well to help uplift and support you. And again, doing all these things helps the brain to support that new self-perception. Next up is emotional responses and cognitive dissonance. Now, first up, I wanted to explain what cognitive dissonance is. Cognitive dissonance happens when there's a conflict between your old and new self-concepts. This can lead to feelings of anxiety, uncertainty, as your brain is working through the clash between who you were and who you're becoming. Recognizing cognitive dissonance helps you to understand and navigate the emotional turbulence that comes with personal rebranding. It's normal to feel uneasy as your brain adjusts, and knowing this can just make the process easier. I strongly suggest that if you're experiencing cognitive dissonance, that you get added support, whether that's tapping using emotional freedom techniques or EFT to help you process the discomfort of the emotional responses to your cognitive dissonance, working with a trauma informed practitioner or therapist, because a lot of times that might signal some type of trauma, whether it be a big T or a little t from your past that's coming up, or joining a community that again will help you to reaffirm yourself. The Lotus Life Deck does this for you as well. Because not only do you have access to those guided meditations and EFT sessions that are cultivated for those different areas of your life that you are looking to rebrand, you also are experiencing my wisdom and energy as a trauma informed practitioner, an energy practitioner. All that is woven into the Lotus Life Deck because my intention in creating it was to help you, whether you're in real time with me or not, to enjoy the process and get through it to completion. Practicing self-compassion can do so much for you too. Allowing yourself to feel and navigate through those emotions because again, it is information that you need. Also using reflective practices like journaling or talking to somebody that you trust can help you process and integrate your new identity. Now let's talk about the prefrontal cortex and how it can help us cultivate clarity and direction. First and foremost, the prefrontal cortex is your brain's self-awareness and decision-making center. It essentially helps you to reflect on who you are, what you want to become, and how to navigate that path. And again, you'll notice that the support it needs is something I will continue to speak about. The truth, I just want to give you a little bonus tidbit. Most practitioners are just repeating themselves in different ways because it is these simple things in life that will radically change your life. So again, journaling, goal setting, these things are going to help your prefrontal cortex to strengthen its sense of decision making, which enhances your self awareness and your ability to complete the journey. Again, a lot of us are really shaky about that completion that has to happen on your journey of becoming a more evolved version of yourself. Now, I also want to share what happens when you do not support your prefrontal cortex without doing these practices like journaling, using a Lotus Life Deck, tapping, talking to a trusted friend or practitioner or therapist. You're probably going to feel lost or unsure of your direction, which way to go. And it's going to make it extremely hard for you to make and stick to the decisions that can change your life for the better. This is why I wanted to explore more about what the brain is doing, especially in the theme of starting over, because again, a lot of us are struggling with this. We think that journaling is, not important or not necessary or it's tedious. I mean, it is tedious. But when you think about the fact that journaling every day helps your brain help you become the person you desire to be, journaling is not that bad. Right? Whether we're doing it through audio journaling, visual diary, traditional journaling, pen to paper, they have journal apps now. There's so many different ways. The important thing is that you need to document your life so that you can bear witness, but also so that you can support your brain in being able to do what it's designed to do, which is to make decisions that propel you forward. Now let's talk about the amygdala, the emotional brain, and how to help it navigate stress and anxiety, because those things tend to come up as we are doing a personal rebrand. I literally was navigating stress and anxiety about the new life that's unfolding for me personally. And this information really helped me to manage the stress and lower anxiety. Like I said, the amygdala is your brain's emotional center. So that's baby girl right there. And it literally plays a big role in how you are able to handle change. I just want to put that out there that the emotional part of the brain is crucial in the journey of starting over because a lot of people think that it's not. I'm not saying that I'm against logic. I'm never saying that. I'm just saying listen to what the brain needs. And the reason why I say the amygdala is super important is that it can sometimes interpret a new situation or a new experience or a new self concept as a threat, which ultimately leads to stress and anxiety. We never think it's that serious, but I want us to remember that the brain does not understand good and bad. It's a machine, if you will. We ourselves are not machine, but the brain is like a database. Think of it like a hard drive or like software for the body. It's not thinking, oh, is this bad or good? It's just simply like, have we had this experience before? Is this experience familiar to us? Because if it's familiar to us, we're going to stick to what's familiar. Doesn't matter if it's good or not for us. It only matters if it's familiar. Okay. So again, the brain is not a bad guy, but it's also not like a good guy. It's just a tool that needs to be used. This is why I'm always saying that your brain is not supposed to lead your life. It doesn't have the innate capability to do that. You have to train your brain on how you want it to help you live your life. Now, how can we support the amygdala? Something that people literally take for granted all the time: deep breathing. I don't know if you've ever experienced breath work. Hopefully you have. If you haven't, please go and look into it. It's really profound. Breathwork was probably one of the first things that I learned in my wellness and spiritual journey. My mentor at the time made me read an entire book on the science of breath. And I was very annoyed at first. Like, why do I need to know about something that I've been doing since I've gotten here on earth? But when I read that book, my mind was blown at how I was not breathing correctly. And it actually reminded me of a time when I was younger. I was in chorus from maybe like first grade up until ninth grade. I constantly have been singing. And my music teacher would always talk about the importance of breathing properly so that we'd be able to hold notes and to invoke emotion. And it was always about expanding the belly on the inhale, where a lot of us do not do that. A lot of us, when we breathe, we take short, shallow breaths that can lead to hyperventilation when we are experiencing an undesirable or a heavier emotion like anxiety or some type of stress. It immediately puts us into this flight, fight, freeze, or fawn mode and makes it really hard for us to move forward in life. However, when you practice deep breathing and you expand that lower belly, you have more control. First off, you're strengthening your core, your center. This also has to do with your solar plex chakra, and that's all about your personal power, where the ego lives as well. That gets strengthened when you are breathing properly. When you are breathing properly, you activate your parasympathetic system. And this tells the body and the mind that we are actually safe. There's nothing to be afraid of. All is well. That is why you need to be breathing deeply. And it's completely okay if you notice that throughout your day, your breath is not as deep, but take some time throughout the day to take a minimum of 3 deep inhales and exhales. And when you're inhaling, I want you to expand the belly as much as possible. Think of it as the more you expand your belly, you get to touch that on button and you press that on button, and it literally tells the body, oh, you're safe, right? And then when you exhale, bringing the belly as close to the spine as possible also helps the body to readjust. And then we do it again 3 times, and you'll notice that whatever you were stressed out about or anxious about, it has dissolved. It may not be completely gone, but I promise you, the more that you practice deep breathing, the easier it becomes for you to recalibrate from a stressful situation. This is how we help the amygdala, the emotional center of our brain, to properly function. Another way we can do this is through positive social connections. Continuing to surround yourself with supportive and understanding people helps you to regulate your emotions and embrace new opportunities with less fear. So it really does matter who you are talking to in the environments that you're in as well. And I know we don't always have control over our environments, but we always have the ability to influence our lives. So let's say you're like, all of my in-person connections, they're not helping me to align to this new version of myself. Then you know what my suggestion is to you? Get on your phone and find a community. The world is at your fingertips. We live in a day and age now where if we cannot find a community that fits us and our uniqueness, then we can create it. I can't tell you how many times I've created community for myself. That's what makes me an excellent community builder, because I have been the black sheep so often, especially in the spiritual space, especially in the wellness space. So often I have been the only Black woman in these spaces, and I have felt ostracized, not because people were making me feel bad, but because a lot of things they were talking about, I'm like, this is not a part of my Black experience or my experience as a woman. So I have to take what I can from this. And I would go to these spaces because ultimately I knew I wanted to grow, but then I would take what I learned, take what I integrated, and then build a new world for me to connect with other people that are in alignment with me so that I can get that positive reinforcement. So whether you consider yourself a community builder or someone that wants to just find community to plug into, you need to do it. It will help you support your brain. And as you support that emotional center of your brain, the amygdala, you ultimately allow yourself to have more ease in this journey of becoming a newer, more evolved version of yourself. I just want to highlight what happens if you disregard the emotional part of your brain. Ignoring your emotional well-being will lead to more anxiety, making the starting over journey feel more overwhelming. And when you get to a space of overwhelm, you're either going to shut down completely, you're going to pause and slow down your progress, or you're going to try to push past it and end up in a space of burnout. None of those results are necessary. They don't have to happen on your journey if you choose to take better care of your emotional well-being and really provide nourishment and put some respect on amygdala's name, okay? The emotional brain is super important. There's a bigger picture to all of this. When you are not actively supporting those parts of your brain we spoke about, the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, the ability to have self-perception, navigating cognitive dissonance, you risk staying stuck in your old patterns. You lose clarity about the path that you're on, you begin to feel overwhelmed, and you lower your self-confidence and self-esteem to be able to endure and get through it. However, when you engage in these practices, you support self-awareness, you better manage emotional responses, and you embrace your brain's ability to adapt. This is going to lead to you feeling more confident, more courageous to navigate the changes that are on the way for you. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Lotus Life Deck before we wrap up because it's so good. Like, it's so good. I created Lotus Life Deck years ago, and I have an entire podcast episode on the Lotus Life Deck if you want to dive more into it. But to briefly go over it, I created it because I needed help with the personal rebrand aspect of starting over. I was struggling with it and doing the traditional vision boards and the vision boxes, the vision tote bags. I've done all those different things and they are not sustainable for me in my journey. I am constantly evolving and I'm very aware of that. So I need things with just enough permanence to keep me going. But when I want to shift gears, I can shift gears and it's not a tedious process. When I understood that that was a very important aspect that I needed so that I could have a game plan, a blueprint to starting over, I made one. I hopped on Canva and I created this really dope template that covers every aspect of life, from spiritual, the energy you want to carry, the way you want to dress, the friendships you want to have, the family relationships that you want to have, how you want your hair to look, how you want your body to feel, where you want to live, where you want to go travel, how you want to attract money. There's also pages to help you see that you're already working towards that in real time. And there's pages for affirmation, meditations, EFT sessions, and podcast episodes, book references to help you. Because one thing that I realized is that people get stuck in the vision board, mood boarding experience because they hit a wall. They hit a little T or a big T when it comes to trauma and they can't get past it, right? They might be gung ho for their romance section and know exactly what they want, but then you talk about how they want to look, and all of a sudden their relationship with their body comes up and they realize that there's a disconnect there and they stop completely. But when you are looking to start over and you're shifting your life, every aspect matters. You can't ignore one, hyper focus on another because it creates disharmony and it doesn't allow you to be your fullest self. So I created this digital tool to help people be able to embrace every aspect of themselves while also honoring the fact that you're going to continue to evolve. I look back at my Lotus Life Deck that I made earlier this year and I realized so much of it felt outdated to me. So I spent time going section by section and updating it. And it was so easy. I can do it from my phone. I could do it from my laptop. I throw my Lotus Life Deck up on my TV and have it play in the background, just reminding me with the images, the audio, the different songs that I pick for the background, the different memes that come up. Seeing myself woven throughout my Lotus Life Deck also helps so much too, because it reminds me that these are things that I have touched before, I have lived in before. And I just want to expand that in the future, as opposed to me thinking I'll never get there. I love using the Lotus Life Deck, and I talk about it often because it really is a transformational tool. And I'm really excited because towards the end of this year, we're going to be having Life Deck parties. So I've had them before, but I'm revamping the entire experience because, again, we learn and we grow. So before, the Life Deck party would be a mastermind of really incredible human beings. I'm talking reverends, doctors, business strategists, doulas, SEO geniuses. Oh my goodness. I mean, the quality of people are top tier. And these are people who are not only self aware, but they also have an alignment to their spiritual self. And that raises the frequency of the experience. We come together in a mastermind experience because when two or more are gathered, God is near, right? And when we say that, we mean that when I come together with someone else, there's a third entity that appears and it helps us. Think of it as that third entity pulling our highest selves out to the forefront so that we can really connect and dive in. These are probably some of the safest spaces you can be in when it comes to cultivating your dreams. I would suggest you coming to a Lotus Life Deck party than going to like your homie that you knew since you were in second grade. Because what happens is that people who know old versions of yourself tend to hold you to those old versions, not because they don't love you or because they're trying to sabotage you. It's simply because that's what's familiar to them. When you're looking to personally rebrand yourself, you're going to need to go into spaces where other people are also desiring that as well. And you get to experience accountability with people that are on the same wavelength as you. So we would come together once a year and go over the life deck. But what I realized is that one, it wasn't enough time because they would be set for 2 hours, but we'd be on there for like 5 hours, chit chatting, playlists in the background, everybody sipping their mocktails, and we're just asking questions, diving in. When we're hitting upper limits, we're talking it through. Right? We're using the meditations, the EFTs. We're talking about the manifestation techniques that are woven into there. There's magic in there as well, too. Angel numbers that support you, ancient sayings, ancient technology woven into it. It's truly a phenomenal experience. Now what I'm doing is I'm breaking it down into 4 parties. So we have one happening in December around the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. Then we have the patriarchal new year, which is January 1st. And then for the lunar new year, which is in February, the lunar and feminine new year. And then we'll complete everything for the zodiac new year in March. By the time spring is in full effect, you would have changed your entire life. You're getting that cosmic support of these really powerful portal days to help you align to who it is you've always wanted to be. I truly cannot wait for the experience. I know it's going to be so good. And I also know that the spots are going to fill up fast. So if it's something that you're interested in and you listen to the podcast in real time, hit me up, let me know, and I'll put you on the waiting list so that when it drops, you're the first one to know you can grab your ticket to the 4-part party. And I mean, ultimately, really, it's a party. We're laughing, kikiing. It's a vibe. I hope that you end up coming. If you're just like, okay, I'm listening to this episode and I love all this information that you gave me, but I don't know where to begin, I would begin with the Lotus Life Deck personally because it weaves everything I spoke about into one place to connect with high vibrational people and allow yourself to lean into your imagination and your magic to create your dream life in real time. So we're wrapping up today's episode, and I want to encourage you to embrace the new season of your life with openness and curiosity. Remember that you're not bound to who you were before. You are allowed to evolve. You're allowed to shift and change. Really give yourself the time to integrate what works for you and to remove what doesn't, to support your brain, to lean into the emotions and the information it provides you, and to use the tools you have access to. Stop trying to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Like, can we let go of that mentality? Because it's gross and it's really not helpful. There are so many tools, there are so many communities, there are so many practitioners and professionals that you can tap into to help you with your rebrand. Pick one, pick some, and move forward healthily, in harmony, where you get to be a happier person. Okay. This journey is supposed to be fun. Don't forget that. Yes, it can sound very serious. I'm starting over in my life. I need a new personal rebrand. However, you're supposed to enjoy the experience. If you're not enjoying the experience, you probably don't have the right tools or the right community to support you. Me alone, if you're tapped into the Loba Land universe, you have guided meditations, EFT sessions, you have podcast episodes, you have live replays of master classes, you have access to my private membership, The Garden, where I go even more in depth. You can book me one-on-one. There's so many different ways that I am showing up to help you access tools and healthy community so you can handle your rebrand, so that you can access your personal rebrand with ease. But even if it's not with me, there's so many other resources out here. Use your resources for your rebrand. Use them, please, for yourself. Because when you do, you're going to really bask in the beauty that comes with having a game plan, a blueprint, your personal rebrand to navigate this new life, this new journey of starting over. And I really want that for you. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to check out the links in the show notes. You're going to see that there's a link for the Lotus Life deck. If you want to check that out, there's going to be a link to my private membership, and there's going to be a link to my email list. I also need you to like this podcast episode, share it with a friend, because I promise you there's one friend you thought about that came up in this episode. And the reason why you thought about them is because this can help them. Send them information, send them resources, because you would want them to do the same for you. Okay. Rate the podcast on Spotify, because we are very close to being a 5-star podcast on there. If you are on a different platform like iHeartRadio, Pandora, rate it there. Like the episode on YouTube. Do what you can to help share this information out in the world, because as you do, you open up that frequency for other resources and tools to come to you as well on your journey of starting over. I love you so much, and I love that we get to continue to bloom beautifully together.